Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we are going to paint a painting of an artichoke. I've been calling it an avocado all day, so I'm so glad I actually got it right. And we're going to be using oil pastels, and I'm using inexpensive oil pastels from Pentel. And I'll put a link in the video description. These are like $6 for 50. You can't beat it. And we'll use a couple other things too, but basically it's really simple, just a few colors. And you can use whatever oil pastels, watercolor crayons, or water-soluble oil pastels you have. You can even use your soft pastels if that's all you got. So what I'm going to work on here is a piece of cream colored mat board, and that's the one I've already done. You can see there on my workspace, but I'm going to set that aside and put in this fresh piece of mat board. And we're going to start by sketching, and I'm going to sketch on just a kind of a circular oval shape, and I'm actually making mine a little bit more ovaler than, or more ovally than my actual artichoke is, just because I like that kind of classic shape a little bit more, but you can do whatever you like. It's your artichoke. And then I'm going to put a stem here, and you want to make sure that you sketch it a little smaller than you actually want it, because as we're working with oil pastels, you can see they're not very sharp, and you really don't want to sharpen them because you're going to waste so much. That way you have room to grow. And I mean, there's a little smudge on my, smudge, whatever you want to call it, on my paper, so I'm really not going to worry about that. While I'm at it, I'm actually going to throw in some shadow, okay? Just a little bit underneath, and I'm just going to bring it out a little bit, kind of like that, okay? And I'm doing this in green. You probably thought I've lost my mind, but I haven't, trust me. We're going to be using the colors in our shadow that we use in the rest of our picture. That way our shadow is going to match and be harmonious with the rest of our design. So now to get the little like leaves on our avocado, we're going to make some little kind of just kind of curvy guidelines, kind of like if you were drawing a face and you're trying to make some lines to line up the eyeballs. Same idea. That's what we're doing here. Okay. Now, something I want you to realize, when I take a stick of pastel out to use it, I'm going to kind of set that kind of hanging over the edge of my pastel box. That way I know that I grab the same green every time. Kind of like when you're putting on your eye makeup, if you're a lady and you have like all these browns and you put brown on one eye and then you can't remember what brown you used, and then you walk around with two mismatched eyeballs all day. Well, we don't want the mismatched eyeballs effect on our painting, so we're going to make sure that we have everything hanging out over the edge of our pastel box as we work. I'm going to grab that color again, and I'm going to start making some kind of triangle marks on my lines. So the top of the triangles reach one line and the bottom reach the other. And then I'm going to go in and kind of fill in, kind of like you're making bricks. Okay, so after you get that first one in, you're going to just kind of offset them a little bit. So like every other row is pretty much hitting the top of a line, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does if you're watching me do it. I hope. And don't worry if it's not perfect, because it's all going to work out. Nothing to worry about. It's only art. And you can also use like smooth cardstock if you don't have like smooth mat board. I just happen to have a lot of this left over because I do picture framing. So up there, I'm not happy with the right there. I have those too tall, so I'm just going to adjust right now and make that next row a little shorter. Not a big deal, guys. We all have to do that. And just put a couple little small ones up there. Now for my shadows, I'm actually going to use this kind of like a grapey purple. This is called, if you got the Pentel set, oh, what is the name? Oh, you know what? These usually have names on them and I don't see it on that one. Anyways, it's kind of like a grapey, winey purple color. And I'm going to go in and kind of put this shadow color anywhere that's kind of like underneath and at the bottom of our triangles, I guess. It's kind of where, you know, we've got the overlapping areas. And I like these two colors together because they're very complementary. That yellowy green and this kind of reddish purple are very close to opposites on the color wheel, so they make each other pop as far as colors go. And they also mix to make a nice dark. So it's kind of a two for one special there. So what we're going to do is add a little bit of that to the stem, and of course we're going to throw a little bit in on the shadow there, because when these colors mix we're going to get some nice browns. Okay. Now I also know that I'm going to need a cooler color in that shadow to make it gray out a little bit, so I'm going to actually grab a little bit of this kind of sky blue color and just kind of glaze right over that. And you can see how it blends with those colors, and it makes it really nice and gray looking. Now at this point, you can smudge this with your fingers if you want to, but I really want to kind of make this go out and be transparent, so I'm going to use a product called Gamsol. You can use baby oil, you can use Goo Gone, you can use odorless mineral spirits, whatever you like. But the only thing I want to caution you with a product like Gamsol is that this is actually truly odorless. That kind of bothers me. I like my solvents to smell. I like to know that if I have some toxic chemical in my studio, it smells. This is like no odor, so I don't pour this out into anything. I will risk contaminating the bottle rather than pour this out into a cup where like one of my cats could hop up on my bench and think it's water, or the kids could grab it by mistake. So this is something I really want to caution you about. I think Gamsol is a great product. I just don't like the fact that it is completely odorless, because just because something's odorless doesn't mean it's not harmful. It just means you can't smell it. So I just want to put that out there in case you're considering that. Yes, it's truly odorless, but that actually kind of bugs me. So what I'm doing here is I've just got a pointy Q-tip, and I'll show you this package here. It's from the dollar store. I really like these. They're great for blending with solvents. And you can see it's kind of turning my my stuff into paint. And it's okay if you get a little green in your shadow, because usually your shadows will have a little bit of a reflected color. And I feel like I want a little bit more blue, probably because that blue wasn't super strong. So I'm going to go right on over that. And there we go. And I like to do that at this stage rather than waiting to the end, because that way I don't have to worry about disturbing anything that I already have going on there. We're going to go in with this kind of medium green. This one actually has a name. This is called Green Gray. And I'm going to go in and add that into the middle parts of each of our triangles. We're just filling in. It's totally fine to be able to see the mat board or your paper underneath. We're not completely filling everything. You want to make sure you can still see your design at this point. You don't want to obliterate everything. Just fill it in, kind of like you're filling in a coloring book. We're being very sloppy here. You don't need to be too precise. Not yet, anyway. Alright, now I'm going to go in with this really light green, pale green. It's almost like a seafoam green color. It's very pretty. And I'm going to start putting in the tops of my, I don't know, what do you call them? Scales? Are they scales? Are they leaves? Who knows? Who do I look like? Julia Childs? I have no idea. So here we go. We're going to put the tops of these in. And make sure when you color these in, you keep in mind the shape of them and go kind of with the veining. Like if I bring this avocado, it's an artichoke. I knew I was going to mess that up. You can see this kind of striation on the petals, scales, whatever you want to call them. So that's kind of how we want to put our pastel down. We want to make sure that our strokes of pastel are reinforcing our design. Okay? Especially with pastel, because we're not going to go back in and blend this. We're going to let the sticks do all the work. For this particular case, you could go back and blend them if you wanted to, but I really think sometimes when we go back and blend, we kind of lose some of the freshness of our drawing, even though we're painting a very unfresh avocado at the moment. I will put a link in the video description to a picture of an artichoke, not an avocado, for goodness sake, from Paint My Photo if anybody needs to have a photo reference. That's a heck of a lot nicer looking than the one I'm going by. Just couldn't bear to throw it away without doing something with it. I don't know how much it was. I don't know, $4. I don't know how much an artichoke is. I can't remember what I paid for it, I should say. And I feel like I want to redefine the edges there, so I'm just going to go ahead there and do that. And now I'm using this olive green again to kind of blend up the purple. It's kind of like a mauve color. I guess I'd call that mauve. Blend that right up. Hope I'm not going too fast. If I am going too fast, feel free to pause the video. You can always start it back up. Okay, there, it's starting to flesh out. There's a couple of, I want to get a couple of those little little leaves on the side there. Maybe just one. Maybe just one's all it needs. Let's get one of those. I feel like, you know what, I think I also want to lengthen up the stem. You might not have to do this. My shadow got a little crazy, so I'm lengthening mine out because I feel like I got a little too much shadow for what we got going on here. And maybe I'll throw in another little leaf over there. and it'll shade and highlight that in a minute. Okay, so I'm going back in with my mauve, and I'm gonna redefine my shadows and just blend it up so that I don't have any white spots in the middle of my illustration. I don't want that. Personal preference though, if you like that sparkle, go ahead and leave it. I like the sparkle in watercolor. I don't necessarily like it when I'm working with pastel or colored pencil. Personal preference though, it's totally up to you. And I mean, you could even go in with a Q-tip and the Gamsol again and blend that out if you didn't want to see the color of the paper through there. There's so many options. Really, you know, you find your own style and you do what is right for you. Okay, we're cooking with fire. We're coming along. A little bit of a shadow on the bottom of these guys here. And a little bit of highlight on those, and we're going to go back in with that nice bright light green for that. We'll highlight on that stem there. Okay, now I want to make some colors pop, so I'm going to go in with the opposite of that purple, the actual opposite, which would be yellow, and I chose kind of like a yellow ochre color, because I love yellow ochre. It seems to make everything just prettier. I don't know why. It's just like a magic color. It's like, okay, the chips are down, this paint's not working, we're going to get the yellow ochre. We're going to pull in the reinforcements. So we get our yellow ochre, and you can actually kind of sculpt the tips of the leaves, so if you've got some kind of bare areas, you can kind of overlap a little bit with that yellow ochre, extend the petal, and get that covered up. You may be reminded of using crayons in school. Crayons or oil pastels. They were always my favorite when I was a child, using those. I loved it when it was crayons day in art class. It's like, yay, the crayons, it's my favorite. Alright, and then just for fun, I thought I wanted to put a little pink in there because pink is also the opposite of that seafoamy green. I think when you're using pastels and you can put those pure strokes of color in there, whenever you can throw in opposites next to each other, they just make things pop. I'm keeping in the same value though, so like by value I mean how light or dark something is, so that seafoam green is about the same value of this like really light pink, which doesn't have a name. Well, it's just called pink. So since the value's the same, it's not looking crazy, but it's making the colors kind of be alive because I've got those harmonious colors right next to each other. And I can also like pick out, like if you need like a little highlight, you need to pull something from the background, it's a great way to do it. And I want to use a little blue in my design because I use the blue in the shadow. We want to, you know, if we do it one place, we want to do it another place to make sure that we have that harmony and that our whole piece works together. So we're going to do a little bit of blue here and there, and sometimes the blue is part of the color, sometimes it's the light that's hitting it. Let's put a little, just a little mark can make so much difference. Alright, so for the bottom of the artichoke, I want to make sure that I have some good definition, so I'm going back in with the purple, which is my darkest value color so far, actually that I'm going to use in this whole piece, and I'm just going to kind of, I don't want to say outline because I don't want it to look cartoony, but I'm definitely defining this edge and blending it up a little bit more just to give me a little bit more definition and shadow. And then we're going to do the finishing touches, the sprinkles on the cupcake, the piece de resistance, the little, you know, something something. We're going to use white, and we're just going to go in and put a little highlight here and there. And of course it's not going to look bright white, and if your pastel stick kind of looks like this, go ahead and scribble it off, get it clean. Peel the paper back if you need to, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the nice thing about the oil pastels. If you love doing pastel or you love the look of it, but a lot of people said they didn't like the sound of the pastel on my paper, then try oil pastel. There's no sound. It feels like you're painting with like lipstick or an eye crayon or something. It's very pleasant. And you can still get the pleasure of painting with pastel, because I really would like all these pastel tutorials that I'm doing here in this pastel series to be kind of interchangeable, so that whatever type of pastel you're using, or watercolor crayon, or water-soluble pastel, or soft, or chalk, or whatever, that you can follow along and have fun. I don't want anyone excluded. Like, your favorite subject might be an artichoke, and oh, I was doing that oil pastel, not a soft pastel, so you feel left out. I don't want that to happen. I want you to try with whatever you have, because I'm sure you're going to do just fine. And that pretty much does it for our piece here. If you want, you can go back in with a little more green, overlap it on some of the purple. I would try not to make mud. You know, you want some of those really vivid colors in there. And honestly, with a smooth board like this or cardstock, you're not going to be able to layer too much. And that's great for a quick project because you're going to fill the tooth quickly, and you know, you can complete a picture fairly quickly. So there you have it. There is our finished pastel painting. You could work on it longer if you want to. That's totally fine. But hopefully that gave you a good foundation and groundwork to get started with oil pastels. They're not very expensive. The kit I'm using, like I said, is $6 or $6 something over at Blitsy. I'll put a link in the video description. It is an affiliate link, so if you click through and buy that, then I'll get a small percentage of that sale and of whatever else you buy if you buy some other stuff. And you don't have to. I want you to use what you have, but if you do, thank you. I do appreciate it. It's awful nice of you. Mighty fine of you to do that. But really, that's it. Oh, also, let me know if you would like to have a studio tour. I've been moving things around down here. You might have noticed it from the camera angles. If you would like a studio tour, let me know so that I'll do one for you. Oh, how about that? Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!